So if you really want to understand your emotional body way more than you ever have, and you want to use the energy of the moon to your absolute advantage, then look no further. Now, these methods that I'm going to be going over are things that I have been testing for many months, probably a couple of years at this point, and I'm just so excited to share what I found, and I hope that it truly helps at least one person. If this helps you, please comment below. I just need to know that this research wasn't for nothing. I literally sat here and meditated on all 12 moon signs just to kind of understand what it's like, and I've also talked to so many people with different moon signs to get their experiences as well. I really put my heart and research and a lot of energy into this video, and so I hope you guys enjoy it and that it helps. And if you like detailed astrological tutorials like this, or even detailed forecast videos, I have a really detailed monthly one, but I also go over other major transits. Please give this video a like and subscribe just to let the algorithm know that you like this type of content, and it'll also mean the absolute world to me to know that you really enjoy this content. So first, I will be going over your moon placement just so you sort of get this baseline interpretation of, what are my emotions? How do I identify them in real life? And this is to really give you a baseline for the second part of this video. And then I will be going over how to identify, the moon's energy throughout different periods of the month, how to identify moon in third house energy, how to identify moon in fifth house energy, or whatever house is relevant, so that you can really understand how these transits may play out for you and how to really handle them to the best of your ability. And so now let's get into the heart of the video in 3, 2, 1, go. So we will be going into your guide for tracking the moon's daily journey. And so every 2 to 3 days, the moon moves into a new zodiac sign, shifting the emotional energy and focus for all of us. It takes about 28 days for the moon to travel all 12 zodiac signs. So in that time, the moon will transit your entire birth chart. The moon's transit will activate a specific area of your life known as a house, determined by your rising sign. And by understanding which house the moon is currently lighting up for you, you can better navigate your feelings, urges, and the subtle currents of your daily life. But you can also better understand your birth chart as a whole. If you want to see where the moon is currently located, I recommend going to astro-seek.com, and towards the top of the screen on your desktop, if using desktop, you will literally see where the moon is transiting right now. But on mobile, click moon towards the top of the screen and you will see where the moon is currently located. And you can also see the phase of the moon as well, which is important. And now I have a graphic on the screen that will show you, depending on your rising sign, which house the moon is currently transiting in your chart. And let's say you go to astro-seek.com, you're a Taurus rising, and you see that the moon is currently transiting Cancer. Then you know based on the table that the moon is transiting your third house. And so apply this logic based on your rising sign and the sign the moon is transiting in. And then at any point, you can reference the timestamps below, such as moon transiting third house, to see what themes you may currently be experiencing, but also how to use these transits to improve your quality of life and understand the things happening in the short term right now, and also the nature of this house in your birth chart. But also it is worth noting, like I said, that the phase of the moon will matter. And so emotions will pop up or swell with the following themes depending on the moon phase. And so reference this whenever you are studying the moon's effects on your own chart, because Astro-Seek will also tell you the moon phase, as this can help you flavor or understand your emotions that much better. But before we go into this lunar cycle breakdown and what to expect by house transit, I am first going to urge you to go down to the timestamps below, find your natal moon sign timestamp, and watch the information related to your moon sign so that you can understand how to identify your emotions and the nature of them at their core. And then once you do that, we will give a breakdown of the themes and feelings to expect as the moon transits each of the 12 houses in your chart, which you can go down to the timestamp below once you watch your moon sign timestamp to get to the heart of the matter. And so now let's get into it. For an Aries moon, you experience emotions like a lightning strike almost. It's hot, fast, and demanding an immediate response. And when you zoom into this swell, it's a flash flood of pure, unfiltered impulse. And there's no time for contemplation almost when you feel emotion. There's only time for the raw energy of the feeling itself. Sadness can feel like an infuriating cage that you have to break out of. And in terms of physical sensations and body cues, the surge of adrenaline when you feel an extreme emotion is palpable, or a buzzing under the skin that demands movement. And so pay attention to a racing heartbeat, a tightening in your chest that feels like a coiled spring, and the almost unconscious act of balling your hands into a fist. This is your body's way of preparing for action, even if the threat is purely emotional. As for examples of emotional states, a good feeling like excitement may feel like a jolt of pure, exhilarating rocket fuel. It's a sudden, confident urge to start something new immediately, or a sensation of uninhibited potential and forward momentum. But a challenging feeling like frustration can feel like a flash fire of rage almost. It's an intensely hot, impatient pressure that makes you feel trapped and infuriated by any obstacle, creating an overwhelming impulse to break free. And so to interpret your emotions during any transit, know that they are raw energy just seeking direction. And so the urgency is your body's signal to move through the feeling, not to get stuck in it. Acknowledge the fire and then ask, what is the most constructive outlet for this powerful energy right now? It's about turning a potential explosion into a focused launch in whatever it is that you do. For a Taurus moon, you experience emotions as a slow, rumbling earthquake that builds from deep within. The swell is a weighty physical presence. It's not a fleeting thought, it's a tangible state of being. Contentment is a deep, full-body hum of sorts of peace. Discomfort is a heavy, immovable weight in your gut. Your physical sensations and body cues can show up in the literal craving for the weight of a heavy blanket or the solidness of the ground beneath your feet. Your throat may feel tight when you are resisting a feeling. Your body speaks through a need for sensory input, whether it's a delicious meal or a soft texture, a calming scent, whatever you find calming. It's different for everybody. And these aren't indulgences. They are your emotional language. Some examples of emotional states, maybe a good feeling like contentment could feel like a deep, satisfying warmth that settles into your bones, like the full body relaxation after a wonderful meal. It's the physical sensation of being perfectly comfortable, safe, and provided for. But a challenging feeling like stubborn resistance can feel like being stuck in wet cement. It's a heavy, immovable inertia almost in your gut and limbs that resists all attempts at change or movement. And so to interpret your emotions, understand that they are your body's call for security in some way. The slowness is a request for patience and presence. And when a heavy feeling arrives, interpret it as a need to anchor yourself. Don't rush it, and instead ask, what simple physical comfort can I offer myself in this moment? For my Gemini moons, you experience emotion like 1,000 different browser tabs opening at once. It's a frantic brainstorm of feelings, thoughts, questions, and scenarios all vying for your attention. My partner is a Gemini moon, and this is what he talks about all the time. And so the core feeling can get lost in the noise of its own analysis. And for physical sensations and body cues, notice the feeling of being in your head, almost disconnected from the neck down. Your breathing can become quick and shallow. The urge to fidget with your hands or tap on your phone or pace is your body trying to discharge excess nervous energy that your mind is generating. Examples of your emotional states could be a good feeling, like curiosity, which may feel like a delightful mental buzz almost. It's when your mind is lit up with new ideas and connections. It's the exciting sensation of learning something fascinating or the social electricity of a witty conversation. But a challenging feeling like anxiety could feel like a frantic internal static. It's scattered, nervous energy where countless negative what-ifs play out simultaneously, making it impossible to focus. And so to interpret your emotions during any given transit, know that they need to be sorted and labeled. The mental chaos is a sign that you need an external processor. So grab a journal or a voice memo or find a way to talk it out if possible. And interpret the flurry of thoughts not as the emotion itself, but as the mind's attempts to understand it, and ask, if I have to give this feeling one word title, what would it be? So start there and you can build off of that. For a Cancer moon, you experience emotions as a deep, powerful tide pulling you under. It's an immersive experience that colors your entire reality. You don't just feel sad, you are sadness for a time. Joy is a warm, protective pool that you float in. And in terms of physical sensations and body cues, your stomach is your second heart. A wave of nausea, a deep ache, or a fluttering sensation in your gut is your first and most honest emotional signal. A lump in your throat is the physical manifestation of unexpressed feelings welling up. Your body will physically crave retreat, maybe like a turtle pulling into its shell. It could be emotional or it could be literal. And examples of your emotional states include a good feeling like love, which may feel like being enveloped in a warm protective blanket of pure belonging. It is a gentle, full-hearted swell of tenderness and safety where you can feel completely at home and cared for. A challenging feeling like hurt, however, can feel like a deep, cold ache that permeates your entire being. It is a powerful, gut-wrenching wave of vulnerability that can make you feel raw and exposed. And so to interpret your emotions, know that your feelings are your superpower. They are a deeply sensitive radar system. Trust the wisdom implicitly. Interpret the overwhelming nature of your feelings as a sign of their importance. The question isn't, why am I so sensitive? But what is this sensitivity trying to tell me about what I need to feel safe? If you're a Leo moon, which I'm also a Leo moon, it's on my first house, it's on my ascendant, I feel it so potently, so I'm so excited to talk about this one, but you experience emotions kind of like as a spotlight turning on inside you, demanding to radiate outward or to be seen depending on who you are. The feeling is big, dramatic, and it wants to be put out there or at least expressed. And when you zoom in, it feels like a swelling score of a movie soundtrack, almost turning a simple feeling into a grand, heartfelt performance. For physical sensations and body cues, your chest is your emotional stage, so notice a literal warmth spreading from your heart when you feel happy or proud. But an ache of sadness can feel like a heavy weight directly on your sternum. Your whole body language shifts. You hold your head higher or your shoulders slump with theatrical weight. Examples of your emotional states might be a good feeling like joy, which could feel like a brilliant, warm light shining from the center of your chest. It's a generous, expansive feeling you want to share with everyone, a sensation of heartfelt confidence and creative expression. A challenging feeling, however, like being hurt, can feel like a spotlight has suddenly gone cold. It is a deeply personal, almost dramatic ache in your heart or a feeling of being overlooked that can wound your core sense of self. And so to interpret your emotions, know that your feelings need to be honored with expression. They are not meant to be a secret. Interpret the swell of emotion as your heart's request to be seen and validated, and ask what creative or generous act would honor this emotion right now. The expression itself is the release, so figure out what that looks like for you. For a Virgo moon, you experience emotions often beginning as a subtle, unsettling physical symptom. It's less a dramatic wave and more of a persistent, annoying hum that tells you something is out of place. It's an itch that you can't quite scratch or a problem that needs to be diagnosed and solved. For physical sensations and body cues, your nervous system and digestive tract are intertwined, so notice a nervous flutter in your stomach, a tightening of your intestines, or a tension headache that seems to come from nowhere. These are often the first signs of emotional stress before your mind even has labeled the feeling. And so examples of emotional states can be a good feeling like satisfaction, which could feel like a quiet, clean hum of efficiency or kind of like peace or calm or knowing. It's the deep contentment of having something really, figured out, something's organized, or being genuine practical help and feeling accomplished within that. But a challenging feeling like worry can feel like a persistent low-grade internal alarm. It's a nervous, unsettled feeling in your gut that comes from being hyper-aware of a flaw or an imperfection or an unresolved problem. And so to interpret your emotions, see them as a diagnostic tool. They are pointing to a specific problem that needs a practical solution. Interpret a feeling of anxiety as a celestial check engine light, and instead of asking, why do I feel this way, ask what system in my body or my life needs attention and care. For Libra moon, you experience emotions as a state of internal disequilibrium. It's like walking on a balance beam. A feeling of unfairness or conflict may make you feel wobbly and unsettled. You feel others' emotions as if they were your own, trying to find the middle ground within yourself. Your physical sensations and body cues can include tension in the lower back and kidneys almost, which is a classic sign of carrying relationship stress or even indecision. But a feeling of lightheadedness or feeling off-centered can be a physical manifestation of internal conflict. You could also feel physically uncomfortable in a space that lacks harmony in some way. And so examples of your emotional states could be a good feeling like peace, which could feel like a graceful, effortless sense of equilibrium. It's the common pleasant sensation of a fair resolution or a genuinely reciprocal interaction, a sense of inner and outer harmony. But a challenging feeling like indecision can feel like a nauseating inner wobble. It is a deeply uncomfortable sensation of being caught between two opposing forces, making it hard to find your center. And so to interpret your emotions, understand that they are a call for justice and harmony. They are your internal scale, telling you when something is out of balance. And so interpret unease as a signal to mediate. This can be between you and another person or between two conflicting desires within yourself, and ask what needs to be adjusted here to restore a sense of peace. For my Scorpio moons, you experience emotions almost as a volcanic pressure building beneath the surface. And from the outside, you could seem calm sometimes, but not always. But inside, it's a churning sea of intensity. The feeling is all-encompassing and demands your full undivided attention. It's not just an emotion. It's a deep transformative process. For physical sensations and body cues, you hold emotional intensity deep in your core and your pelvic region. So notice a deep clenching in your gut or a coiled tension in your muscles. There can be a sense of buzzing electric energy running just beneath your skin. You are holding immense power and your body feels it. And so examples of your emotional states include a good feeling like intimacy, which could feel like a deeply powerful, unwavering current of connection. It is electrifying and deeply calming sensations of absolute trust and soul deep bonding. This could be with someone else. It could be with a passion. It could be with anything. So be flexible with that definition. But a challenging feeling like betrayal can feel like a cold, corrosive acid churning deep in your gut almost. It is an all-consuming obsessive intensity that simmers beneath the surface, demanding your complete focus. And so to interpret your emotions, know that they are a catalyst for rebirth. Do not be afraid of their intensity. It is the source of your resilience. Interpret the pressure as a sign that something old is ready to be released and transformed. This is not the time for surface level analysis, but for brave, honest descent into your own depths. For my Sagittarius moons, you experience emotions that feel like an urgent need to escape or expand or to learn in some way. And so a heavy feeling of sadness or frustration can feel like a cage, creating an immediate and almost powerful urge to break free. But joy is a boundless, optimistic energy that wants to explore and see the world. For physical sensations and body cues, restlessness is your primary physical cue. It lives in your hips, your thighs, and legs, the parts of your body that carry you into the world. A feeling of being antsy or fidgety or literally unable to sit still is your body's way of saying it needs to move through an emotion. Examples of your emotional states are a good feeling like optimism, which may feel like a boundless, almost buoyant energy that makes you feel like you could run for miles. You kind of get the zoomies when you're happy. If you ever watched Love Island, I believe Maya has a Sagittarius moon and she goes on zoomies all the time. And that's kind of what you feel like when you're happy, because it is the thrilling sensation of possibility, freedom, and adventure on the horizon. But a challenging feeling like restlessness can feel like an intense, almost painful case of claustrophobia. It's an anti-agitation that comes from feeling trapped, bored, or limited by circumstances. And so to interpret your emotions, see them as a compass pointing you towards growth. Interpret that anti-caged feeling as a direct signal that your perspective has become too small. Your system is asking for a wider view. And so ask yourself, what adventure, big or small, will give this feeling the space it needs to breathe? For a Capricorn moon, you experience emotions as a slow, immense pressure, kind of like a tectonic plate shifting. Despite what people say, you feel very deeply. It is felt deeply, but it is contained with a powerful sense of reserve. And so the feeling is serious and substantial, and your instinct is to manage it with competence and control. For physical sensations and body cues, you carry emotional weight in your bones and your joints. And so notice stiffness in your back, your neck, or your knees, or a feeling of coldness or physical density that can accompany the heavy emotion. You could physically brace yourself with a rigid posture and a clenched jaw containing the feeling so that you remain functional. And so examples of your emotional states include a good feeling like accomplishment, which could feel like a solid, quiet sense of inner authority. It is the deep grounding satisfaction of reaching a difficult goal, like a deep internal nod of approval. A challenging feeling, however, like failure, can feel like the immense cold weight of the world on your shoulders. It is a heavy, isolating feeling of inadequacy, of the lonely burden of responsibility. And so to interpret your emotions, see them as signals about your long-term security and integrity. They are asking you to build stronger containers for your life. Interpret a heavy feeling as a need to reinforce your foundations. Grant yourself the dignity of feeling it fully in private, and then ask yourself, what is one practical step that I can take to feel more capable and secure? For an Aquarius moon, you experience emotions like a sudden bolt of lightning or a strange radio frequency that you're tuning into. The feeling can arrive in a sudden, unexpected flash of insight, often feeling impersonal or alien at first. And those feelings can get personal, don't get me wrong, but at first it's kind of like this entity that you go, oh, what's that? And it's an electrical charge that your mind can immediately want to observe and understand. And so for physical sensations and body cues, pay attention to a hum or a buzz in your nervous system. A sudden chill or goosebumps can accompany an emotional download. Tension will often gather in your ankles or your calves, and so when overwhelmed, you might feel a distinct sensation of wanting to disconnect, as if your consciousness is hovering just above your head. Examples of emotional states could be a good feeling like sudden insight, which could feel like an exhilarating spark of electricity in your mind. It's the clean, cool thrill of a brilliant idea, or the easy camaraderie you feel with like-minded people. But a challenging feeling, like alienation, for example, can feel like you are observing your life from a distance, encased in a cool bubble of glass. It's the strange, disorienting sense of being disconnected from your own emotions or from others. Take what resonates with that, because it is a little complex with an Aquarius moon. And so to interpret your emotions, see them as radical insights. The detachment is your tool for seeing the emotion clearly. So when you get that emotion swell up and you're like, oh, what's that? Really lean into it, because when you resist it, it will feel more personal. And this helps you not get lost in the drama. And so interpret a sudden emotional jolt as important information arriving from your higher mind. Ground yourself physically as well. Feel your feet on the floor and then ask, what is this feeling trying to show me from a completely different perspective? For a Pisces moon, you experience emotions like a mist that slowly fills the room, dissolving all the sharp edges. It is often hard to tell where your feelings end and where another's begin. You experience emotions as a vast, boundless ocean of empathy or connection, and sometimes confusion. Your most telling physical cue is your energy level, so sudden deep fatigue is a sign that your energetic boundaries are down and you're processing collective emotion. Your feet can be highly sensitive, feeling cold or achy when you are feeling emotionally ungrounded, so pay attention to that. But tears Tears are not just a reaction, they are a necessary physical release of energetic buildup if you just so happen to be somebody who cries. I know not every Pisces moon cries. And so some examples of your emotional states are a good feeling like compassion, which could feel like a gentle, blissful dissolving of your own boundaries. It's the deeply moving experience of deep empathy or spiritual connection that makes you feel part of something bigger and beautiful. But a challenging feeling, like feeling overwhelmed, can feel like you are drowning in a murky, undefined sea of emotion. It's the state of deep fatigue and confusion without a clear source, stemming from absorbing too much of your environment. And so to interpret your emotions, know that your feelings are your connection to the divine. They are a source of immense compassion and creativity. And so the most important practice is to gently ask, is this feeling mine? Regardless of the answer, the solution is the same. You need to cleanse. Interpret emotional overwhelm as a signal to retreat to your inner sanctuary, at least for a short being of time, whether through music, art, meditation, or contact with water, or just something that really makes you feel connected to a brighter energy in this world. So take what resonates with that. When the moon is transiting your first house, the energy to pay attention to is your sense of self, physical body, personal needs, and how you project yourself emotionally. Your identity and immediate reactions are in the spotlight, or your emotional body, even if it's more of a subconscious feeling, just feels like the volume is turned up a bit, and so sensations may turn up. And what this energy may feel like is your emotions sitting right on the surface of your skin, making you feel more raw and emotionally responsive than usual. Whatever your current state is, even if subconscious, will be amplified. So if you're good, you're really good. And if you don't feel too good, you're probably really, really not feeling good. And so there is a heightened awareness of your own body in some ways, an almost primal urge to assert your presence or potentially a drive to act on instinct. Emotions in a literal sense could really tell you a lot about how you feel about yourself, aka whether you love yourself, or it could amplify the work you need to do for yourself. You could feel impatient as well, since your emotional senses or lack of them, if you push them away, are going to be heightened at this time. You can recognize this energy when you'll notice a sudden and distinct focus on you. This can look like feeling more sensitive to comments about your appearance, having a lower tolerance for things that feel inauthentic, or simply feeling your own physical needs, sort of like hunger or fatigue, more urgently than usual. And when it comes to the last point, especially about your physical needs, these will require a lot of attention to consciously notice sometimes. So I have my natal moon in my first house, so that's just something I experience every day. And I know your body tells you so much about how you're feeling, and pausing and asking questions about your state can help you to recognize them. You can use these self-reflection questions to check in. You can ask, have my personal needs felt more pressing in the last 24 to 48 hours? Is my focus turning inward towards my own body, mood, and immediate desires? Or am I feeling a sudden urge to change something about how I present myself to the world? And so my advice is to see this as your monthly emotional reset. Honor your gut feelings. If you feel the need to put yourself first, this is the time to do it without guilt. Use this energy to start something small that is just for you, whether it's a new workout, a new journal, or simply carving out an hour of unapologetic me time, because it's when you do this that you'll feel more emotionally grounded, and any short or long-term emotional work can truly begin to open up and become effective. When the moon is transiting your second house, the energy to pay attention to is, in a literal sense, you can pay attention to finances, material possessions, personal values, and a sense of self-worth. But on a deeper level, the focus shifts to what makes you feel stable and secure on a material level. So focus on your surroundings, how they make you feel, and what your urges are within your material world. But also focus on feelings of self-doubt and gauge where your self-worth meter is. Like, do you feel like you actually have worth, or do you feel like you lack it? And what this energy may feel like is a deep, almost gut craving for tangible comfort and stability. Anxieties may feel directly linked to your financial or material security or your worth in some way. And the urge to manage your surroundings in some way can feel like a need for emotional reassurance. You may feel a strong desire to surround yourself with things or ideas that are comforting and valuable to you, not only out of materialism or greed, but from an emotional need to feel grounded and safe in the physical world. And what this is going to look like, look at the sign of your second house, because this is the energy that may make you feel safe or grounded. And you can recognize this energy because it shows up as a focus on the tangible world. You might find yourself absent-mindedly checking your bank account or noticing the quality and texture of the objects around you. You may be studying objects around you, or maybe you're having a stronger than usual craving for specific comfort food, or maybe there's something about, your self-worth that is really at the forefront of your emotional mind. And so conversations about money or resources may feel more emotionally significant from a literal sense, but even if money isn't a focus, pay attention to your self-esteem. And if you feel down about your self-worth, notice what is triggering it. It is probably the shadow side of the sign of your second house. And so some self-reflection questions for this time are: have my thoughts been drifting towards my sense of security recently? Am I feeling a stronger need for comfort and stability than a few days ago? What do my recent spending habits say about what I'm currently valuing, and how am I currently feeling about myself and my self-worth? And so my advice for this time is to ground yourself by connecting with the physical world. It's a great time to organize your finances, but it's also appreciating the resources that you already have. So take time to enjoy a good meal, wear an item of clothing that makes you feel good, or simply take inventory about what makes you feel secure. And if there's anything that gets you in an indulgent mood, embrace that at this time, as this can ground your self-worth in the short and long term. When the moon is transiting your third house, the energy to pay attention to is communications, the words in your mind, your immediate environment. If it's relevant, also pay attention to siblings and short trips, but also pay attention to daily interactions, because your mind is stimulated and you're tuned into the world around you. So beyond the physicality of the second house, look for the ideas and meanings of your environment. And so if there's a book in front of you, for example, the second house is the tangible book itself, whereas the third house is the contents of the book. I hope that makes sense. And so what this energy may feel like is a mental restlessness or a buzz in your brain that needs more input. The drive to communicate isn't just about sharing facts. If this is something you feel, it's an emotional need to connect through words, whether with yourself or with others, to process your feelings by taking or talking them out. And to feel heard, or to feel like your thoughts have substance, like maybe you have a thought that you can't put into words. You just really want to understand it. And so the curiosity can feel like an active urge to click the next link, or to ask another question, or to take a different route home just to see something new. And so pay attention to what stimulates your mind, for better or for worse, as this will determine the nature of your third house. And like I said before, a hint for what this could look like is look at the sign of your third house, because that shows how you process your immediate environment. You'll recognize this energy when you notice a mental and social buzz. This can look like an inbox that's suddenly flooded, or an urge to text multiple people at once, or even a curiosity that sends you down an internet rabbit hole. It'll differ for everybody. So let's say you have a Taurus third house, you would feel a lot more slower pace with processing your immediate environment than say a Gemini third houser. And so just take whatever's relevant with your house. Like a Libra third house for me, I like to view kind of like the beauty and la-di-da of things. But maybe if you're Aquarius, you kind of like to see, how the systems work. And so your daily commute or a walk around the neighborhood as well, like let's say you're just walking around, it could feel more interesting when this transit happens. So pay attention to your thoughts as you do that. And you can ask yourself these self-reflection questions. Has my mind felt more busy or restless than usual? Is there an increase in my communication, whether it's more texts, calls, or conversations? And am I noticing new things about my immediate environment that I usually overlook? And so my advice is to engage with the flow of information, but don't let it overwhelm you. It's a great time to write or to learn, to connect with siblings if you have them, or neighbors. And if your mind feels scattered, focus it by writing down your thoughts, which I know is cliche, but you really need to put your thoughts into words at this time. And you could talk it out as well. That's another way you can process things. It's better to talk about one meaningful thing than 10 superficial ones at this time. And so by understanding how your mental processes work, which is kind of outlined by the third house, some people say it's Mercury. I think it's also Mercury, but the third house is equally as important to your mental processes. You can adjust them to become more positive and beneficial to your life. So by embracing your natural communication style, it really helps to regulate your emotions. If the moon is transiting your fourth house, the energy to pay attention to is your home, your family, your roots, and your private emotional world. The focus is internal, on what makes you feel a sense of belonging and safety. It's the core of yourself, essentially. Don't think of the fourth house as this almost like physical presence, kind of like your family that's right in front of you or your home that you're surrounded by, although that is important. But instead, think of it as kind of like the core of you. Your home is sort of a reflection of where you come from. This all stems from your origins and it blends into what makes you feel safe today. And I know for some people, like I didn't have a great home life growing up. I have Chiron in my fourth house and it's in the sign of Scorpio. So I know like sometimes it's kind of like hard to embrace your roots, but in all honesty, it's about figuring out what makes you feel safe and turning any pain into power. And so this energy may feel like a powerful, almost physical pull to retreat into your own private space, like your energy field is contracting for protection and rest. You could also feel drawn to things that resonate with your core in some way. And so you could feel more tender and sentimental, with memories of the past feeling surprisingly vivid and emotionally charged. I know for me, I always think about my mom when the moon is transiting my fourth house, but it'll be different for everybody. And so the drive to nest or to like clean or cook or to create a cozy atmosphere, no matter how that looks for you, stems from a deep instinctual need to build a safe container for your feelings. So whenever you feel driven for safety, no matter how that looks, and whenever it stems from your core self, kind of like that deep gut feeling, pay attention to that because it'll tell you a lot about your internal state. You'll recognize this energy because it feels like a distinct pull inward. You might get to the end of the day and realize you have no energy for socializing, craving only the comfort of your own space. That is unless you have let's say you have a Gemini fourth house, for example, and a really like chatty Mercury. Maybe you like it when you communicate with people at home, but for most of the time you'll want to retreat. And if either safety or nostalgia is triggered with anything in your life, really pay attention to that because it's likely a fourth house matter. To reflect, you can ask yourself, have I been feeling more introverted or in need of privacy in the last day or two? Are my thoughts turning towards my family, my past, or my actual living space? Is there a longing for comfort and a sense of emotional safety? And what about my past is influencing my sense of security and innermost self today? And so my advice for this transit is to honor your need for sanctuary, no matter how that looks. Not pushing yourself and letting yourself focus on self-care first is absolute key, because this is your time to recharge emotionally. Don't force yourself to be social if you don't want to be social. Focus on nurturing your home environment, whether it's by cleaning, cooking, or simply relaxing on the couch and watching a movie. And allowing yourself time to process your feelings without judgment is key. But also, you don't have to stay at home. Let's say, for example, you have this like distinct childhood memory of like you want to go on a hike in a forest because that's what you did as a child, or you love going to like the theater and watching a movie at a movie theater. Do whatever brings you that like sense of like safety and joy that's kind of nostalgic from your past, because doing whatever makes you feel this way will help you ground on an emotional level on the absolute truest level. When the moon is transiting your fifth house, the energy to pay attention to is creativity, joyful self-expression, romance, hobbies, and play. And so this transit highlights the things that bring you authentic joy, connecting you to your inner child, and its need to be seen and celebrated. It's the transition point between surviving, which is like the first four houses, and thriving, which, you know, joy is kind of optional, but we all want it. It's where existence meets joy and purpose. It is important to note though that joy isn't always like this bubbly woohoo. Like I have Sagittarius in my 5th house. Every time moon is transiting my 5th house, it's kind of like this like, oh, I want to learn. I want to read a lot. And it's not very like bubbly, but it is very curious. So take what resonates with joy and hobbies, and it'll likely match the sign of your 5th house. And so this transit often feels like a bubble of warmth expanding in your chest, or a longing for that feeling at the very least. Maybe it's like an urge to laugh and a desire to take things not so seriously, unless serious things are your hobbies, like if you have a Capricorn 5th house, for example. But joy is central no matter the sign of the 5th house. Maybe that feeling of lightness is your emotional body signaling the need for joy and self-expression. Perhaps a creative urge may feel like an insistent spark that wants to become a fire. This is your heart telling you that it wants to create something tangible, like a melody or a painting or a story, or maybe you want to read a bunch, or maybe you want to go gardening. Take whatever resonates with what brings you joy, and this could be with yourself or with others. It's a deep emotional need for heartfelt connection, admiration, and the simple pleasure of being appreciated for who you are, or to appreciate something. Sometimes this joy of the 5th house comes from others, but sometimes it's what you pour into something. And when this house kind of feels emotionally empty, trust me, you will feel it, and this transit will illuminate that. This energy can look like a spontaneous desire for activities done purely for their own sake, or a realization of what types of activities bring you joy. For example, that urge for creative expression could look like you finding yourself filling the pages of your notebook with intricate designs without realizing it, or spending an hour rearranging decor in your home just to make it more aesthetically pleasing. And so the need for play might look like you putting on a specific song and dancing in your kitchen while you wait for the water to boil. And so the desire for connection can look like you effortlessly engaging in witty, lighthearted banter with someone, or feeling a spark of a little bit of playful energy. And you can ask yourself these self-reflection questions when this transit is happening. What activity, just for the fun of it, is my energy pulling me towards right now? If I listen to my inner child, what would it be asking me to do? What part of my unique self am I feeling an urge to share with others? And where in my life am I feeling more passion or heartfelt enjoyment? And so my advice during this transit is to give yourself permission to follow the trail of joy, even if it feels unproductive. Chasing joy, however that looks, even if you feel it's unattainable, is the key to not only recharging your soul, but for showing up better in other areas of your life. That feeling is a compass pointing towards what will emotionally refuel you. Because engaging in a hobby or laughing with someone you joy isn't an escape, it's a necessary act of reconnecting with the part of you that feels passionately alive. And so following these urges boosts your confidence and vitality no matter what's going on in your life. When the moon is transiting your 6th house, the energy to pay attention to is your daily routines, work, health, wellness, and habits. This transit relates to the things that create order and efficiency within your life, highlighting your body's needs and the satisfaction of a well-functioning system. This could be literal work, it could be chores, or it could be the tasks that you have to complete throughout the day, or it could simply be the way that you take care of yourself, like brushing your teeth in the morning, or eating breakfast, or whether you do or don't eat breakfast. So take what resonates. And what this energy can feel like when the moon is here is like an emotionally satisfying urge to bring order to your immediate world, or to at least understand it. That feeling of calm that comes from organizing or managing your environment in whatever way resonates with you is your emotional body's response to reducing underlying stress and chaos. A sudden focus on your well-being isn't about discipline, though. Like, don't be hard on yourself. It's your body communicating its needs more clearly to you, making the urge to stretch or to drink water feel like an instinct, not a chore. I know personally I have 6th house struggles at times, just based on the fact that I have a Capricorn 6th house, and the need to feel productive can truly overwhelm you if you're not careful. So you have to check yourself and not push work for the sake of it, and don't force your routine routine to look a certain way because we all operate differently. Some move slower than others, and so the desire to be helpful is your emotional need to feel useful and effective in a tangible way. And so be helpful in whatever way you have capacity for. Don't force yourself to be a way that you're not. And so what this energy can look like is maybe it's a focus on a small practical improvement in your life, or the urge for order might look like you methodically unsubscribing from junk emails that clog your inbox, or finally tackling that pile of mail on the counter. And your body's communication can look like you choosing a nourishing meal, not because you should, but because it genuinely is what you crave. It can also look like an undeniable pull to go to bed an hour earlier instead of doom scrolling on your phone. I'm guilty of that. Or suddenly noticing a subtle tension in your shoulders and taking a moment to stretch it out. It can also manifest as like a little routine or a larger routine. So it really could be super small, but it could be super big. And so don't look for these big things necessarily. Just truly listen to your body at this time. And so some self-reflection questions are: what small task, if completed, would bring me the greatest sense of calm and satisfaction right now? What is my body trying to tell me through its cravings, aches, or energy levels? Which daily habit feels out of alignment and is a calling for a small adjustment? And how can I be of service in a practical way that would also feel good to me? And so my advice is to harness this desire for refinement by making one small tangible improvement during this transit. The satisfaction this energy brings comes from tending to the systems that support your life. And by organizing your desk or prepping a healthy lunch, you are honoring your well-being, which reduces stress and frees up your mental and emotional energy for other important things. When the moon is transiting your 7th house, the energy to pay attention to is your significant one-on-one relationships, including partnerships and close friends. This transit relates to your need for connection, balance, and mirroring to better understand yourself. It's essentially how you connect to another, whether it's platonic, romantic, or even your idea of how you connect. I know a lot of people, there's one point in my life where I probably went 2 weeks without talking to other people. And obviously I had 7th house transits. And so maybe it could just be, you reflecting on how you connect to others. So take what resonates. And what this energy may feel like is it's as if your emotional center of gravity has shifted from yourself to another person, or you're simply focused outside of yourself, even if other parties aren't directly involved. And the heightened sensitivity you feel to another person's mood or your sudden focus outside of yourself is your emotional body seeking equilibrium through the lens of others, because another's peace can feel like your peace. This doesn't mean giving everything to another person, but realizing the energy others give you in your life. A desire for harmony is your core need for balanced reciprocal connection coming to the surface, but a warning is that disagreements may feel more disruptive because they threaten this emotional equilibrium that you are seeking. The focus on partnership can look like you catching yourself about to make a decision and then pausing with the immediate thought, I should ask them what they think first. Fun fact, as I'm filming this, the moon is in my 7th house, and I just made an Amazon order for, some hooks in my bedroom so I can hang my coats. And I asked my partner, do you need any hooks for your things? And so when I bought something for myself, I considered my partner, and that's kind of like an example on how this can play out. And the need for harmony or connection could also look like you being the one to initiate a conversation to clear the air about a minor disagreement because the unresolved tension feels unsettled within your own body. It can also look like a feeling of deep contentment that comes from simply being in the same room and working quietly along someone important to you. And even existentially, it can look like you feeling emotions that are simply connected to someone or something outside of yourself, whether for better or worse. You can ask yourself these self-reflection questions. Whose perspective am I feeling a strong need to hear or understand right now? What is my current interaction with a key person teaching me about my own needs? Where in my relationships am I seeking more balance or reciprocity? And does my emotional state feel heavily tied to someone else's today? And so my advice is to use this relational focus to nurture your key connections or to refine how you connect with others if that's relevant. And the focus outside of yourself is an opportunity to practice active listening and gain valuable insight into your own patterns. And by paying attention to how you feel in the presence of others, you can learn what you truly need from a partnership to feel balanced and understood. When the moon is transiting your 8th house, the energy to pay attention to is deeper intimacy, shared resources, psychological depths, and transformation. This transit relates to the things that are hidden beneath the surface, highlighting your psyche's need to engage with complex truths in your life. What this could feel like is an intense craving for depth and a strong aversion to anything superficial, because it's like that depth is the only thing that can quench your soul's needs at this time, whether it's through knowledge, intimacy, or a simple transformation. That feeling of impatience you have with small talk or energies that don't read between the lines could be a signal from your emotional body that it's ready to engage with more substantial transformative material. A pull towards a deep conversation about a sensitive topic like shared finances or past trauma could stem from an emotional need for genuine trust and transparency. And you could feel emotionally brave but also vulnerable, as if you are standing at the edge of an important psychological discovery. And so the emotions could feel very intense when the moon's in your 8th house. And this energy can look like maybe you bring up a taboo topic with a trusted friend, like your fears about the future or your family's history with this specific issue. And honestly, I'm an open book, so I don't think this stuff is that weird, but I have my South Node in my 8th house, so maybe that's why. But some people, I feel like they don't like to get to the heart of the matter. You will want to during this transit. And the need for depth might manifest as you spending an evening absorbed in a documentary about a complex mystery or researching your own psychology. It can also look like you feeling a powerful emotional release while journaling about a past event you thought you were over, as your psyche presents the memory for final processing. And I know in my case, it can simply look like a few little mini meltdowns. Like you could feel like you're going crazy a little bit, and it's not always necessarily in a bad way, but it's almost like your body knows that you need to release something. And so this urge could be powerful. And you can ask these self-reflection questions during this transit. What topic am I avoiding that my thoughts keep returning to? Am I feeling a pull to understand the deeper motivations behind my own or somebody else's actions? What does trust and vulnerability mean to me right now? And is there an emotional truth I'm ready to confront, even if it feels intense? And so my advice during this transit is to allow yourself to explore these deeper currents, even the scary ones that kind of challenge your sense of security, but do so in a way that kind of feels safe and conquer your fears in a calculated and planned way if possible. Because that pull towards the intense is your psyche telling you it's ready to heal or transform something, especially emotionally. And this is a powerful time for journaling or having a confidential conversation with someone you trust, or uncovering insights that lead to greater self-awareness. Just whatever helps you uncover those thoughts. It's different for everybody. Some people hate writing. Do that. And by honoring this need for depth, you can release old baggage and reclaim your personal power. When the moon transits your 9th house, the energy to pay attention to is your worldview, personal beliefs, maybe how you pursue higher learning, and opportunities for expansion that you feel really pulled to. And this transit relates to the things that broaden your horizons, connecting you to your need for meaning and a bigger perspective. And this can come up as external factors that teach you something, like maybe you have a really cool learning experience that quite literally comes to you during this transit. Or maybe an internal perspective being highlighted that relates to your core beliefs could come up. So focus on both your internal and external world. And what this transit could feel like is maybe a deep sense of restlessness, or maybe an itch to move, explore, and break free from your routine in some way. So if you feel that urge, really pay attention to it, because that feeling of your current environment being too small could be your spirit signaling its readiness to expand its understanding of the world. And so if you feel that, try to figure out are you looking to learn, or what are you looking to sort of like achieve? But this could also manifest as an intellectual hunger for big ideas. This isn't just a needless sense of curiosity. It's an emotional need to find meaning, or to connect the dots of your life into a larger, more hopeful picture that makes sense to you. And it is worth noting that learning may not always feel safe, because it can challenge our beliefs. And it's almost like that instinctual thing where when we learn something that shatters our reality, we kind of panic a little bit. And so pay attention to both exciting, expansive energies, aka the things you want to learn, but don't shy away from the ones that push you out of your comfort zone a bit, because really understand, what are you trying to learn? And this need to break out of your routine can manifest in various ways. This is because the sign of your ninth house is so different. So like, I'm an Aries ninth houser, and I like to just go for it. I really am sort of like active in my pursuit for understanding bigger perspectives. But let's say you're a Libra ninth houser, for example. Maybe you just really love to like take all perspectives as they come to you. And so really resonate with the sign of your ninth house. And this could look like maybe you spend your lunch break lost in a travel blog, or maybe you go on Instagram and you get lost in those travel reels with like the really nice mountains and stuff, vividly imagining the sights and sounds of a foreign city and kind of the different energy it brings you that you're not familiar with. Or maybe the hunger for knowledge could look like you suddenly signing up for a webinar or a complex subject like philosophy or astrology. Or maybe you find yourself in a deep, spontaneous conversation about life's big questions with a friend, or even with yourself in your head as you go to bed at night. And you might also feel a wave of optimism, where a problem that seemed overwhelming yesterday could suddenly feel manageable because you kind of have a new higher vantage point. And so any new vantage points or sort of moments, really pay attention to those. Look for those aha moments during this transit is the big note, and really make a note of what triggers it, because that can tell you a lot about how you want to expand. And you can ask yourself these self-reflection questions during this transit. What belief or perspective feels limiting to me right now? If I could learn about anything, what subject is my mind being pulled towards? And what does my feeling of restlessness want me to explore? But also, what would give me a greater sense of meaning or purpose in my life right now? And so my advice is to feed your mind and spirit with something new, even if the urge to do so isn't particularly strong. Do it anyway, because that feeling of restlessness is a compass pointing you towards growth. You don't have to do anything crazy like leave your town and spend a lot of money to expand your world. Maybe a documentary on a subject you know nothing about, or maybe listening to music from a different genre or culture, or reading an article that challenges your current point of view could be enough to trigger this. Because the goal is to stretch your mind and answer your spirit's call for a wider perspective, because it's when you do that you can gain insights or realizations you didn't even know you needed. When the moon transits your 10th house, the energy to pay attention to is your career, your public reputation, your ambitions, and maybe your sense of responsibility. And this transit relates to your need for public contribution, recognition, and the creation of a lasting structure in the world. And even if it's not really this strong urge to, in quotations, achieve something, which as a Taurus midheaven myself, with Venus in my 4th house in Scorpio, very private by the way, I can relate to this. It could just simply be an emotional focus on what you are currently putting out in the world, not like what you want to put out, but maybe it's just like where you are now that you focus on. Or it could be, something literal happening in your job that kind of triggers your emotions, like your boss being snappy. And whether like something happens with your job or something else, get creative when trying to notice what this could look like for you and really expand your mind, because the 10th house is a lot more nuanced than people give credit for. And what this may feel like though is it's almost like you're on stage with a heightened awareness of your actions and how they are being perceived by others. And this feeling comes from an emotional investment in your public role and long-term legacy, because whether you want to achieve something big or not, you definitely do have an opinion on it. And that opinion will be amplified, but it could also just come from wanting to understand maybe how you are perceived, to see if you are doing your best in whatever it is that you do, or maybe you're just curious and nosy. And this is kind of how this looks for me. I think about it all the time, which I probably shouldn't, but things happen. But you could also begin to feel responsible for your contributions in the world, or lack thereof, which could show up as an emotional pull to just do something, or an emotional pull to reevaluate your path. And the sense of responsibility can feel daunting or exciting, and can be used to gauge kind of your current satisfaction within your public path. So listen to those emotions, since they can tell you a lot about where you are. This awareness of your public life can manifest as you taking your work more seriously. It could look like you volunteering to lead a team meeting because you have a clear vision of what you want to share, but it could also look like you spending time updating your professional profile, not as a chore, but as a satisfying act of crafting your public narrative. It could also be like a moment of clarity, for example, during your commute where you realize a long-term goal that you've been chasing no longer feels fulfilling, prompting you to reevaluate your path. Or it could look like evaluating how important public achievement actually is, because for some people it means more than others. And like I said earlier, it could also just mean maybe work irritates you more than usual, so pay attention to that as well. And so here are some self-reflection questions to ask during this transit. What is my current emotional relationship with my career or public role? Am I feeling seen and respected for my contributions? What legacy or reputation am I currently building with my actions? And does the responsibility I carry feel like a burden or an honor? And so my advice is to step up and be visible in a way that feels authentic to your goals, or be as visible as your heart truly craves at the very least. And that feeling of being on, in quotation marks, is a sign that your public role is emotionally relevant right now. And so this is a good time to take a small practical step towards a long-term ambition, whether it's sending an important email or outlining a project just for theoretical purposes, and use this clarity to assess whether your professional path truly aligns with what you need to feel accomplished and proud. When the moon transits your 11th house, the energy to pay attention to is maybe your friendships, your community, the social networks that you either observe or you're a part of, but also your long-term hopes and dreams. And this transit relates to your need for belonging among peers and aligning your personal aspirations with a collective vision. And the 11th house is what I like to call the second house from the 10th house. Hear me out, because if the 10th house is your public role, it's how your public role is identified, then the 11th house is your resources to contribution, if that makes sense. Whether it's your dreams, your ideas, the community itself, your vision, and your contributions to the larger world, it's the resources you've used to make a difference or to connect or to make an impact. And what this energy could feel like is more emotionally detached in some ways, but also future oriented, like you're seeing your life from a bird's eye view, but it could also kind of feel like you're zooming out of your personal lens and seeing your role within society or larger groups in some way. And there's a desire to be a part of something larger than yourself, or at the very least, a desire to understand what piece of the societal puzzle you kind of fit into, which could stem from your spirit seeking validation and inspiration from the world, but also it's your way to seek and take a higher meaning and actually implement your energy into the world. The connection to friends, for example, could feel less like a deep one-on-one sense of intimacy, kind of like the 7th house, and more like an uplifting sense of belonging to a tribe instead of an individual. Or maybe your urge to share your hopes for the future or society could be fueled by an emotional need to see those dreams reflected and supported by like-minded people. A good example of this is politics. A lot of people are emotionally charged towards politics, and so maybe you have like this urge to really make a difference with some political belief that you're really passionate about. And this feeling doesn't need to be big and grand, but I just look at how those dreams connect to the collective and see what urges pop up related to that during this transit. This focus on the collective can look like you suddenly getting an idea and your first instinct being, I need to tell my friends or my social media followers about this. But it could also manifest as you spending time on a community forum or a group chat, feeling a genuine sense of camaraderie and a shared interest that boosts your mood. But it could also look like you simply daydreaming about a future goal, like starting a business or moving to a new city, and instinctively picturing the friends or the allies or the community who will be a part of that future with you. Or it could just look like you developing a larger dream that connects to the collective, whether directly or indirectly, as well as realizing where you fit within the collective currently. Maybe you're not thinking about the future always. Maybe it's about where you are now. And so here are some self-reflection questions during this transit. Who are the people that make me feel hopeful about the future? Am I feeling the need to connect with my tribe? Which of my dreams feel more exciting when I imagine sharing it with others? But also, what role do I play in my community, and does it feel fulfilling? And so my advice is to connect with your network and share your vision. This could be on social media, with friends, or just simply working towards a cause. And if you don't have a network, work on reflecting what your ideal network looks like, even if you're naturally a loner, because that pull towards your dreams or larger groups is an invitation to find inspiration and support. You can reach out to a friend, engage with a group you care about, or share an idea you're excited about. This is a great time to feel a sense of belonging and to remember that your personal hopes are often amplified and made possible by the people you surround yourself with. If you think about most of success, it's usually the people who kind of like lift you up. Like nobody ever truly does anything by themselves. Even like the evil people who step on people's toes, which that's a little dark, but it's true. And by connecting your dreams to a larger vision, you can better learn where you fit in the grand puzzle of life, where you can then embrace that role, or you can change it depending on how emotionally satisfied you are with it. And when the moon is transiting your 12th house, I have crazy dreams during this, by the way, because the energy to pay attention to is really your subconscious. It's your mind. It can be dreams and spirituality. For some, it's the need for rest and release. But the big thing for me, this is my biggest thing that I've learned about the 12th house, is pay attention to unseen energies, because the 12th house, despite popular belief, isn't always about isolation. It's about everything that transcends the physical world, whether energetically, spiritually. That's what the 12th house is. It's what our mind can't see, but it exists. And this transit relates to your psyche's need to process, dissolve, and reconnect with yourself and your core before a new cycle begins. If you're a little spiritual, it's kind of like, how they say, oh, we're all connected to the same source. It's kind of like tapping into that source in some definitions. And so the way in which you will do that, which will depend on the sign of your 12th house, will be amplified at this time. So pay attention to that little voice in your head or your body that is buried a little bit deeper than the conscious mind, because that's what's going to be important at this time. What this could feel like is maybe a soul deep fatigue that sleep doesn't seem to fix, and this is a direct signal that your energy is being used for deep inner processing, but also your energetic and emotional boundaries could feel porous or just very open. You're absorbing things, and this can cause you to absorb the ambient moods around you, and this heightened sensitivity is a result of your ego defenses kind of lowering to allow for spiritual release, because this is what the 12th house does. It processes the energy that is outside of oneself, but also it realizes where the self connects to that. And the pull to solitude could be strong for some people, but the reason this would be the case is if your energies are so deep and strong that it's the only way to tune out the noise and properly process it. But some people operate through the 12th house in conjunction with their real life, so take what resonates. And if you feel the need for retreat, this can look like simply putting on your headphones, even with no music playing, simply to create a buffer from the world's energetic static. But it could also manifest as you starting a movie, but zoning out completely as your mind is insistently drawing inward. But it could also look like having a vivid and symbolic dream that kind of stays with you all day. This is what happens to me all the time. I have my 12th house in Cancer, so it kind of makes sense. Or maybe you feel a sudden, inexplicable wave of emotion, like sadness or peace, kind of just when you're chilling through the day, and then you recognize it as a signal to the energies going on around you, which can give you insights on the next steps you need to take. Whenever that echo in your mind and body that's really quiet sometimes gets 1% louder, really make a note of it. And you can ask yourself these self-reflection questions during this transit. Is my body or spirit asking me to process something I currently cannot see? How can I process this wave? What am I feeling that might not be mine? And what messages are coming through in my dreams or moments of quiet reflection, but also what do I need to let go of before I can begin a new cycle? And so my advice for this transit is to honor what you are processing and the potential need to rest without guilt,
but to also see any steps you take to really process these emotions you're absorbing or these energies you're absorbing as productive, because the truth of the matter is this is data, and it's so understated how much data like the 12th house energy gives you. That feeling of being drained, if that's relevant to you, is your soul's request for downtime, even if the feeling isn't super prominent, but it could feel simply like the volume turning down in your head for a little bit. But also, if you feel invigorated, it could be a sign of equilibrium with unseen forces in your life. Maybe the vibes in quotation marks are good. If you need to meditate, do that. If you need to go out in nature, if that resonates with you, do that. Or simply practice mindfulness in whatever way resonates during this time. And think of this as allowing your inner world to reset, ensuring you can meet the next cycle feeling clearer and restored, because after the 12th house comes the first house. The first house is kind of like the conscious, and the 12th house is the subconscious, but those are, in my opinion, the two houses that really connect the most with the self. And so whatever helps you to really center yourself, you're being urged to pursue it so that your conscious self is ready to tackle the world.